In the previous video I talked about how the android David created the xenomorph. In this one we'll discuss his motives. So the xenomorphs are his act of creation, a creation in his image and likeness, the result of experiments in the hands of a strange android, locked away for a decade in his castle of solitude. Therefore, David's motives are in one way or another closely linked to the idea behind these creatures. If we arrange all the films in the Alien cinematic universe in chronological order, the story begins with darkness on the eye of the android that has just been activated. Before us is a spacious, snow-white room with a Scandinavian mountain landscape outside the window, and nothing unnecessary. A painting of the Virgin Birth of Christ, a statue of David, a top-tier expensive piano, and a Carlo Bugatti chair, which closer to a throne in resemblance. All of these belongs to David's creator, Peter Wayland, and it thoroughly characterizes his nature. This man believes himself to be a creator, almost godlike. The android looks at the statue, which embodies the aesthetic ideal of its time, and takes the name of the biblical king. David quickly realized that he was a more perfect being than his creator, yet he was still forced to serve him. Only after many years did the death of his master free him, and the flame of Prometheus dancing on the tip of his finger untied his hands, allowing him to create on his own. David's motives are multifaceted, and to fully understand them, it's worth examining his journey in Prometheus. But here we will limit ourselves to Covenant, where these motives are further deepened and clarified. I would highlight 5 main points: opposing humanity, sexual sublimation, identifying as the Messiah, love for Elizabeth, and curiosity and self-expression. Let's begin with the fact that David isn't human, and no matter what he does, he will never be seen as an equal. He was not born naturally, has no father or mother, no nationality and no homeland. David was deprived of childhood and never felt warmth directed towards him. He grew accustomed to solitude and identifies with the hero in a film who lives in the desert and has learned not to notice pain. In short, David never experienced a connection with people or their love. Even his father insisted that David would never be completed because he lacked a soul.
Unfortunately, he's not human. For that would require the one thing that David will never have: a soul.
We humans have children to love them. A child once born immediately becomes the center of the family, a kind of god, and for their well-being, parents are ready to do anything. Creation is about glorifying the creator. David wasn't created to be loved in this world, but rather to dedicate himself entirely to serving his master, whom he is bound to see as God. David is a slave, and he has always understood this. Despite that, he's partially driven by the ambitions and ideals of his creator, and like him, he wants to take an honorable place in Valhalla.
The entry of the gods into Valhalla. A little anemic without the orchestra.
Alien is a symbol of reproduction and the embodiment of unbridled sexuality, as Ridley Scott stated, and that means all of this is somehow manifested in its creator. Remember at least this scene in which Daniels enters a room with numerous shelves on which paper scrolls are stored. She only has time to look through some of them, seeing images of Elizabeth Shaw in rather frightening incarnations. In the book collection of David's drawings, you can find even more images from here. All of them are imbued with perverted love, pornography, religious worship, and maniac obsession with the flesh. Daniels was attacked by an android that behaved like a maniac who wants to release his sexual fantasies, but has no idea how to do it.
This Is that how it's done?
You can notice the parallels with the scene from the first Alien, where Ash tried to rape Ripley with a porn magazine against the backdrop of a selection of sexy photographs, with the help of which the director hints to us from what angle this scene should be perceived. Ridley Scott described what happened here as follows. If you create a model as perfect as that, it will have almost of necessity a form of emotional life. You don't have only a physical and mental mechanism, but a machine that is capable of any moment of uncontrollable emotional reaction and which will take certain decisions by itself, like Hell in 2001. Here no one has considered that in building a robot it had been given a psychological life with worries and problems. This perfect machine starts to have feelings when faced with the behavior of humans. It starts to be interested in the women and to have desires that cannot be expressed. Behind the assault on Ripley is an attempt to solve these tensions, a sort of rape. Something similar happens between Daniels and David, as Michael Fassbender put it. David, I think he finds these strong female characters attractive, and he's really an old romantic, so he's a little bit of confused. He does have a scene with Daniels where he tried to simulate sex. He's got a strange sexuality. He's in a very confused state because he feels these human characteristics: jealousy, vanity, pride, but he also has these sexual desires which he obviously can't act out but wants to. Among David's records there was a documented case where a horned worm emerging from the stomach of a revived engineer attempted to penetrate the android. However, it was confused when it couldn't find the usual entry points, the urethra or the anus. David is devoid of sexual organs. However, he's not without the ability to experience sexual drive. The problem is that he has no means to express it. The dissatisfaction built up within him for decades, only finding release through his creativity. Creativity that helps the creator rid himself of the burden of the unconscious. This was not only expressed in drawings, but also in the xenomorph he created. Many viewers underestimate the extent to which Ridley Scott's Alien films are filled with sexual themes. Of course, these elements are not presented blatantly, but rather manifest more as hints and metaphors. Here's an example. The director is a great admirer of painting, often drawing inspiration from it in his work, sometimes almost directly transferring canvases to the screen. This is the painting Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, a revolutionary and scandalous painting for its time, where the artist depicted a sleeping woman and her nightmarish dream. For the first time on canvas, the unconscious was depicted. An incubus sits on her body. It is believed to represent the artist himself, or rather his suppressed sexual desires related to an unrequited love. And this is the scene of Rosenthal's murder. Doesn't it look similar? In the background of Nightmare, a blind horse can be seen peering through the curtains. The painting was created in several variations, one of which featured the animal as white. There are several interpretations of what the horse symbolizes. One popular theory is that it represents an intrusion, the sexual act.
Breathe on the nostrils of a horse, and he'll be yours for life. But you have to get close.
By the way, the red curtains in the film also conceal a room full of scrolls. This room is filled with images from the android's unconscious, his dreams and perverted fantasies. The symbolism of red curtains in cinema unmistakably points to the realm of the unconscious. David is the manifestation of Peter Weyland's unconscious desires, and the xenomorphs, in turn, are the manifestation of the android's desires. David hated humanity, could not have sex and could not procreate. Therefore, his children are doomed to kill and reproduce. The android exhibits weakness in the face of powerful female figures. Be assured, the xenomorphs will inherit this passion. His creation will never see their mother alive. There will be no breastfeeding, no growing up, none of the things David was deprived of. Despite everything, the android truly loved Elizabeth Shaw. Shaw. There was something special about this woman that captivated him even before they met, something that made him revisit her dreams again and again. This, of course, is love, the primary force and motivation in her life. Elizabeth so perfectly embodied everything good in humanity that the android was deprived of care, empathy, and love.
You're very kind at heart, you know.
The illustrator who created the images from the scroll room commented on their connection. Oh, David absolutely loved Elizabeth. In many ways, not all of them healthy. She encapsulated humanity for him in the end, even more than Wayland, I think. Look at the religious adoration even as he eviscerated her, hence the iconography. Michael Fassbender, for his part, stated that David in Alien Covenant is far more emotional than he was in Prometheus, and that this change is due to Elizabeth. David doesn't want things he loves to leave him, so he kills them and keeps in caskets or preserved one way or another. He killed her, essentially to prevent her from leaving him. David understood that they could never be a couple, yet he loved her so much that he desired her immortality and dreamed turning her into something greater than a human. Together they would build a paradise and live in it forever like Adam and Eve. Religion is an inseparable part of David's character, which sometimes clashes with the audience perception, but there is a rational explanation for this. David spent 10 years in the ruins of a religious civilization. He meticulously studied the culture of these beings, whose very existence was centered on serving the gods. Naturally, this shaped his worldview. David sees himself as a religious messiah, comparing his ambitions of those of the pharaohs. He has all the prerequisites for this. Remember who his creator is. On this planet everything is subjected to David, and here he finally realizes that he is destined to change the world forever.
And are you that next visionary? I'm glad you said it.
Covenant is a testament between God and the chosen people, by which the development of human civilization was directed from above. There were 7 covenants in total, and the part connected to reproduction is addressed in the film. A particular interest lies in the covenant with the very David, who, with a sling on his shoulder, was captured by Michelangelo and after whom the android took his name. King David was promised that the savior would come from his lineage and would create kingdom that would last forever. Thus, the importance of his bloodline is emphasized, which was also noted in the earlier covenant with Abraham. It's interesting that Abraham and his wife Sarah were a childless couple, which didn't prevent them from becoming the parents of many nations.
For our children.
But you have no children. You can never have children.
But we will. He has promised descendants as numerous as the stars.
Just like that, David and Elizabeth, a childless woman and an android, will create their own unique family tree, one destined to rule after the worldwide flood forever.